Have you ever felt invisible, like you're standing right in front of people but they just don't see you? This is Emily's story, a story about finding your voice even when you think no one is listening. Get ready to witness a transformation that will remind you of the power within yourself. The clatter of silverware against porcelain was Emily's daily soundtrack. Le Fleur, with its starched white tablecloths and hushed tones, was a world away from her tiny apartment uptown. Here she was just another waitress, blending into the background like the soft jazz that perpetually filled the air. She refilled water glasses, silently cleared plates, and anticipated needs before they were even voiced. It was a demanding job, made even harder by the worry etched permanently on her face. Her mother wasn't getting any better, and the medical bills were piling up like the dirty dishes in the kitchen after a Saturday night rush. Emily spoke 5 languages fluently, a skill she'd honed growing up in a multilingual household and further refined with online courses taken late at night after her shift. But she kept this talent, like so many other things, hidden. Sharing her knowledge felt too risky. Past experiences had taught her that revealing her intelligence often led to ridicule, to being labeled a know-it-all, or worse, a threat. So she remained quiet, her potential buried beneath a veneer of unassuming competence. Tonight the restaurant was buzzing. A party of celebrating businessmen roared with laughter in one corner, while a young couple nervously eyed their menus in another. Emily navigated the crowded floor with practiced ease, her movements efficient and almost invisible. Then a new figure entered the scene. A woman dressed in an elegant but understated kimono stood hesitantly near the entrance. She looked around, her brow furrowed with confusion. It was clear she didn't speak English. The hostess, usually so composed, stammered apologies and gestures, her face flushed with frustration. Other waiters glanced over, their expressions a mixture of annoyance and helplessness. No one knew what to do. The Japanese businesswoman spoke rapidly, her words a melodic stream that no one understood. She held out a small card, presumably with her reservation details, but it didn't seem to help. The hostess continued to shake her head, her voice rising in pitch. The woman's shoulders slumped. The vibrant energy of the restaurant seemed to dim around her, isolating her in a bubble of incomprehension. Emily watched from across the room, her heart clenching. She understood every word the woman was saying. She could easily step in, bridge the communication gap and ease the situation, but fear, that constant companion, held her back. What if she made a mistake? What if her accent was off? What if she drew unwanted attention to herself? The familiar voices of doubt whispered in her ear, urging her to stay silent, to remain invisible. She felt a surge of empathy for the woman, a shared sense of isolation. Emily knew what it was like to feel lost in a sea of unfamiliar faces, to struggle to be understood. She glanced at her mother's picture tucked away in her apron pocket, a reminder of the sacrifices she made, the responsibilities she carried. The woman, sensing the growing tension, looked up. Her eyes, dark and searching, scanned the room, and then they landed on Emily. She paused, a flicker of hope igniting in her gaze. She looked directly at Emily, waiting for a response. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. Emily's breath hitched. The woman's gaze was pleading. Emily glanced around, a knot forming in her stomach. The boisterous laughter of the businessman at the corner table seemed to mock her hesitation. The nervous fidgeting of the young couple waiting for their table amplified the pressure. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to melt back into the anonymity of the restaurant. But those eyes, the woman's eyes, held a desperate hope, a silent plea for understanding. Emily's own feeling of isolation resonated too strongly to ignore. Taking a shaky breath, she pushed aside the fear. It was just a few words, just a small act of kindness. She stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper at first. "Excuse me," she said. Then louder, clearer, "Ika o tetuwanai dekiru koto wa arimasu ka? Nanika o tetsudai dekiru koto wa arimasu ka? Is there anything I can help you with?" The Japanese businesswoman's face lit up. Relief washed over her features, instantly transforming her from a picture of frustration to one of gratitude. She launched into a rapid explanation in Japanese, detailing the reservation mix-up and her dietary restrictions. Emily listened intently, nodding occasionally. She responded smoothly, relaying the information to the bewildered hostess, Ryan, the manager, and the other waiters. "Ms. Sato has a reservation under Sato, party of 1. She also has a severe shellfish allergy," Emily explained, switching effortlessly between English and Japanese. The hostess, looking flustered but relieved, quickly confirmed the reservation and assured Ms. Sato that her allergy would be carefully accommodated. Mrs. Sato beamed, bowing deeply to Emily. Bendang ni arigato gozaimasu. Hontou ni arigato gozaimasu. Thank you so much, Mrs. Sato said, her voice filled with genuine appreciation. I was so worried. Your Japanese is excellent. Emily blushed, a small smile playing on her lips. Doitashimashite. Doitashimashite. You're welcome, she replied. I'm glad I could help. As the hostess led Miss Sato to her table, Emily felt a strange lightness. The fear hadn't completely vanished, but it was overshadowed by a quiet sense of accomplishment. She had done it. She had spoken up. She had helped someone. She glanced back at the bustling restaurant, suddenly seeing it in a new light. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't invisible after all. Ryan, the restaurant manager, had been watching the entire exchange with growing interest. He approached Emily as she returned to her station, a thoughtful expression on his face. Emily, he said, his voice warm and curious. That was impressive. I didn't know you spoke Japanese. Emily's heart skipped a beat. The moment of triumph was quickly replaced with a familiar wave of anxiety. Here it comes, she thought. The questions, the attention, the exposure. But Ryan's eyes held genuine curiosity, not judgment. Where did you learn? He asked, his gaze unwavering. You sounded completely fluent. Emily hesitated, unsure of what to say. Should she tell him the truth? Should she reveal the years of studying, the countless hours spent practicing, the secret she had guarded so carefully? Or should she brush it off, downplay her abilities, and retreat back into the shadows? Before she could decide, Miss Sato's server arrived with an urgent request. Ms. Sato needed clarification on one of the menu items, and after her previous experience, specifically requested Emily's assistance. Ryan smiled, a knowing glint in his eyes. Go ahead, Emily. Help Ms. Sato. We'll talk later. As Emily walked towards Ms. Sato's table, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change. She had responded to the call, and the adventure had just begun. After ensuring Ms. Sato's meal was perfect, Emily returned to her station, a sense of unease settling in. The brief moment of exhilaration had faded, replaced by a nervous anticipation. She knew Ryan would be waiting. She knew he would have questions, and she knew that she couldn't hide forever. Ms. Sato, finished with her meal and glowing with satisfaction, stopped by Emily's station before leaving. You have been so kind, she said, bowing slightly. Thank you again. I hope to see you here again. She then turned to Ryan, who was standing nearby. You have a very special employee here. Don't let her hidden talents go to waste. With a final, grateful smile, Ms. Sato left the restaurant. Ryan turned to Emily, his expression a mixture of curiosity and intrigue. So, he said, leaning against the counter, Japanese, huh? Tell me more. He paused, a playful smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Maybe you can teach me a few phrases. Emily swallowed hard. This was it. The moment of truth. Well, she stammered, searching for the right words. Ryan chuckled softly. Relax, Emily. I'm not going to force you to reveal all your secrets, but I am curious. And, he added, his voice becoming more serious, I think you have a lot to offer. He straightened up, his gaze locking with hers. Come to my office after your shift. We need to talk. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Emily tried to focus on her tables, but Ryan's words echoed in her mind. I think you have a lot to offer. Could it be true? Could she actually use her hidden talents? Ryan found her as she was clocking out. Ready? He asked, a friendly smile on his face. Emily nodded, her stomach twisting. She followed him to his small, cluttered office. He gestured for her to sit. So, Ryan began, leaning back in his chair. Ms. Sato seemed pretty impressed. And frankly, so am I. 5 languages, Emily. Why keep it a secret? Emily fidgeted, picking at a loose thread on her apron. It's complicated, she mumbled. People, they don't always react well. React how? Ryan pressed gently. Like it's showing off, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Or like I think I'm better than them. I just want to fit in. And, she added, thinking of her mother's medical bills, I need this job. Ryan sighed. Emily, hiding your abilities isn't fitting in. It's selling yourself short. This restaurant could really benefit from someone who speaks multiple languages. Think of the possibilities. He leaned forward, his eyes earnest. You could be training new staff, translating menus, even attracting a whole new clientele. You're a valuable asset, Emily. You need to own that. Emily looked down at her hands, a wave of doubt washing over her. But what will the others think? Especially Clara. Ryan frowned. Clara's a good waitress, but she's not the only one here. Don't let her insecurities dictate your life. As if on cue, Clara breezed past the office door, casting a pointed glance inside. "Working late, Emily? Trying to impress the boss?" she called out, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Emily shrunk back in her chair, her cheeks burning. Ryan glared at Clara. "Mind your business, Clara," he said sharply. Clara just smirked and walked away. "See," Emily said quietly, "this is exactly what I'm talking about." "Emily, you can't let her get to you," Ryan insisted. "She's just jealous." Back home, Emily replayed the evening in her mind. Ryan's encouragement felt like a lifeline, but Clara's jealousy was a heavy anchor. She scrolled through online translation jobs, a flicker of hope igniting within her. Maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to use her talents without attracting unwanted attention. The next day at work, the whispers started. Emily could feel Clara's eyes on her, cold and calculating. Snide comments were tossed her way during the lunch rush. "Someone's getting awfully chummy with the boss," Clara said loudly to another waitress, making sure Emily could hear. "Yeah," the other waitress replied, giggling. "Bet she's hoping for a promotion." Emily tried to ignore them, focusing on her customers, but the negativity was a suffocating cloud. Then, during the dinner rush, Ms. Sato returned. Emily's heart skipped a beat. "Ah, there you are, Ms. Sato exclaimed, her face lighting up when she saw Emily. "I specifically requested your section. You made my meal so enjoyable last time." Clara, who had been about to seat Ms. Sato elsewhere, glared at Emily. As Emily took Ms. Sato's order in fluent Japanese, Clara's jaw dropped. The other waitresses stopped what they were doing and stared. Even Ryan emerged from the kitchen, a knowing smile on his face. Ms. Sato beamed at Emily. "You are truly gifted," she said. "It's a shame to hide such a talent." When Ms. Sato finished her meal, she left a generous tip and a small card. "Please," she said to Emily, "call me. I have a proposition for you. I think you have a bright future ahead of you." Emily watched Ms. Sato leave, clutching the card in her hand. The encouragement was overwhelming, but the fear was still there, lurking beneath the surface. She glanced over at Clara, who was now seething with resentment. Later that night, as Emily counted her tips, she noticed Clara whispering to a group of waitresses. They all turned to look at Emily, their faces etched with suspicion and disapproval. Emily knew, with a sinking feeling, that Clara wasn't going to let this go. This was just the beginning. Clara's jealousy intensified, and she began plotting to undermine Emily. Emily's hands trembled as she polished silverware. Ms. Sato's card felt like a hot coal in her pocket. Could she really do this? That evening, Ryan approached her with a warm smile. "Emily, I couldn't help but notice your talents." Ms. Sato was very impressed. "We've been getting more international customers lately. Would you be comfortable helping out with translations? It would be a big help to the restaurant." Emily hesitated. I don't know, Ryan. I don't want to cause any trouble." "Trouble? You'd be doing us a huge favor, and I'm sure we can work out some kind of bonus for you." Ryan's eyes twinkled. "Think about it. You'd be making a real difference." Taking a deep breath, Emily nodded. "Okay, I'll try." The next day, Emily braced herself as she arrived for her shift. Clara was already there. Her eyes narrowed. "Well, look who it is," Clara sneered. "The restaurant's new multilingual wonder." Emily ignored her and headed to the kitchen. Daniel, who was dropping by for a quick hello, caught her eye. He gave her an encouraging wink. "Hey, Em," Daniel said, pulling her aside. "Ryan told me about Miss Sato. That's amazing. You've always been so smart. Don't let anyone hold you back, okay?" Emily smiled, feeling a surge of confidence. "Thanks, Dan. I needed that." As the dinner rush began, Emily found herself translating for a group of German tourists. She explained the menu, answered their questions, and even helped them choose the perfect wine. Their faces lit up with appreciation. Ryan watched from a distance, nodding approvingly. He even gave Emily a thumbs up. Clara, however, was fuming. She deliberately mixed up the tourists' order, serving them the wrong appetizers. When Emily tried to correct the mistake, Clara blocked her way. "Just leave it, Emily," Clara hissed. "They'll never know the difference." Emily stood her ground. "That's not right, Clara. They deserve the correct order." Clara rolled her eyes. "Fine, be my guest. But don't come crying to me when they complain." Emily quickly fixed the order, apologizing profusely to the tourists. They were understanding, but Emily could feel Clara's animosity burning into her back. Later, as Emily was clearing tables, she noticed a kind-faced busboy, John, watching Clara. He gave Emily a sympathetic look. "Don't let her get to you," John whispered. "I saw what she did. She's just jealous." Emily was surprised by his kindness. "Thanks, John. I appreciate that." John smiled. "Any time, I'm here if you need anything." Over the next few days, Emily continued to use her language skills, helping customers from all over the world. The restaurant became more popular, and Ryan was thrilled. He even started promoting Emily on the restaurant's social media. Clara's sabotage, however, intensified. She hid Emily's order pads, gave her incorrect information, and even spread rumors about her to the other waitresses. Emily tried to stay positive, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. One evening, after a particularly grueling shift, Emily found a note slipped under her locker. It read, "You don't belong here. Go back where you came from." Emily's heart sank. The fear she had tried so hard to suppress resurfaced, stronger than ever. She showed the note to Daniel, who was furious. "That's it," he said. "I'm going to talk to Ryan." "No, Dan. Please," Emily pleaded. "Don't make things worse." "I can handle it," Daniel sighed. "Okay, but if things escalate, I'm stepping in." The next day, Emily arrived at work with a knot in her stomach. She tried to focus on her customers, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. During the dinner rush, Ryan called Emily into his office. "Emily," he said, his face grave, "I need to ask you something. A significant amount of money is missing from the cash register, and you were the last one to use it." "Emily," Ryan said, his face grave, "I need to ask you something. A significant amount of money is missing from the cash register, and you were the last one to use it." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "What? No, that's impossible." Her mind raced, trying to recall every transaction, every movement. Had she made a mistake? Could she have miscounted? But she was always so careful. Ryan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know this is difficult, Emily, but the numbers don't lie. And Clara says she saw you acting strangely near the register earlier." Clara. Of course it was Clara. Emily's stomach twisted with a cold dread. This wasn't just sabotage. This was a deliberate attempt to destroy her. "Ryan, you can't believe her," Emily pleaded, her voice trembling. "Clara has been making my life miserable since I started working here. She's jealous." Ryan's expression softened slightly, but his eyes remained clouded with doubt. "I want to believe you, Emily. I really do. But I have to investigate. I have a responsibility to the restaurant." He paused, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "I'm going to have to suspend you, pending further investigation." The words hit Emily like a physical blow. Suspended. Her job, her livelihood, everything she had worked so hard for, hanging by a thread. "No, Ryan, please," she begged, tears welling up in her eyes. "Don't do this. I didn't do anything wrong. You have to believe me." But Ryan just shook his head, his face etched with regret. "I'm sorry, Emily, my hands are tied." As Emily walked out of Ryan's office, she felt the weight of the world crushing her. The looks from the other waitresses were like daggers, filled with suspicion and judgment. Even John avoided her gaze. She stumbled into the back alley, gasping for air, betrayed, accused, alone. The fear she had tried so hard to bury resurfaced, consuming her. Was this it? Was this how her dream ended? Daniel found her there, slumped against the brick wall, her face buried in her hands. "Emily, what happened?" She looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen. "Ryan, the money. He thinks I took it." Daniel's jaw tightened. "That's ridiculous. You would never do that." "Clara told him she saw me," Emily sobbed. "She's trying to ruin me, Dan, and it's working." Daniel pulled her into a hug, holding her tight. "Don't worry, Em. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to prove your innocence." That night, Daniel started his own investigation. He knew he had to clear his sister's name. He started by reviewing the restaurant's security footage, hoping to find something, anything, that would exonerate Emily. Meanwhile, John, quietly observing the unfolding drama, couldn't shake the feeling that Clara was involved. He had noticed her acting strangely in the days leading up to the missing money. He remembered seeing her lingering near the cash register when Emily wasn't around, and he had overheard snippets of conversations that suggested she was planning something. He debated whether to come forward, unsure if anyone would believe him, but he couldn't stand by and watch Emily suffer for something she didn't do. He knew he had to say something. The next morning, John approached Daniel. "I think I know something about the missing money," he said, his voice low. "I've seen Clara acting suspiciously. I think she might be behind it." Daniel's eyes widened. "Really? What did you see?" John recounted his observations, carefully detailing Clara's behavior. Daniel listened intently, his mind racing. This could be the break they needed. "Thanks, John," Daniel said, his voice filled with gratitude. "This is really helpful, but we need proof, something concrete that will convince Ryan." That night, Daniel continued his investigation, focusing on Clara. He dug into her background, searching for any clues that might explain her motive. He reviewed her work history, her social media accounts, anything that might shed light on her character. And then he found it. A series of online messages that suggested Clara was deeply in debt. She had been struggling financially for months, desperately searching for a way to make ends meet. Daniel felt a surge of hope. This was it. This was the evidence he needed. But he still needed something more. Something that directly linked Clara to the missing money. He knew he was close, but he needed to find that final piece of the puzzle. He spent the rest of the night poring over the security footage again, this time focusing on Clara's movements. And then he saw it. A fleeting moment, barely perceptible but undeniable. Clara reaching into the cash register when she thought no one was looking, slipping something into her pocket. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He had it. He had the proof. Now all he had to do was find a way to present it to Ryan without alerting Clara. He knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. He finally had evidence that pointed directly to Clara, but he needed to find concrete proof that Ryan would accept. Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline. He had it. Proof. He called Emily immediately. "Emily, I found something. I need to see you." Emily, who had been staring blankly at the wall of her apartment, felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. "Okay," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Where?" "Meet me at the diner," Daniel replied. "It's important." When Emily arrived, Daniel was already waiting, his face etched with determination. He slid a file across the table. "I found out Clara has a gambling debt, a big one, and John saw her acting strangely around the time the money went missing. He's willing to testify." Emily's breath hitched. "Testify? Are you sure?" Daniel nodded. "He feels guilty. He should have said something sooner. But there's more. I reviewed the security footage again. And Emily, I saw her. Clara. She took the money." Emily stared at the file, her mind reeling. Clara. But why? The betrayal cut deep. "What do we do now?" "We show Ryan," Daniel said, his voice firm. "We tell him everything." Fear coiled in Emily's stomach. Confronting Ryan, risking her job. It was terrifying. But the thought of living under this cloud of suspicion, of being seen as a thief, was even worse. She looked at Daniel, at the unwavering belief in his eyes, and a spark of courage ignited within her. "Okay," she said, her voice stronger now. "Let's do it." The next day, Emily and Daniel stood outside Ryan's office, the file clutched tightly in Emily's hand. Each step felt heavy, her heart pounding in her chest. Emily felt a wave of nausea, but Daniel placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You can do this, Emily," he said. "I'm right here with you." Taking a deep breath, Emily knocked on the door. "Come in," Ryan's voice called out. They entered the office, the air thick with tension. Ryan looked up, his expression unreadable. "Emily, Daniel, what can I do for you?" Emily swallowed hard. "Ryan, we have something to show you. Something about the missing money." Daniel stepped forward, placing the file on Ryan's desk. "We believe Clara is responsible." Ryan's eyebrows furrowed. "Clara? What are you talking about?" Emily spoke, her voice trembling slightly. "We have evidence. Financial records showing Clara's debt, John's testimony about her suspicious behavior, and—" She paused, taking another deep breath. "Security footage that shows her taking the money." Ryan stared at them, his face a mask of disbelief. "This is a serious accusation, Emily. Do you realize what you're saying?" "I do," Emily replied, her voice gaining strength. "And I wouldn't be here if I wasn't absolutely sure." The room was silent as Ryan began to review the evidence. He read through the financial records, listened to John's statement, and watched the security footage, his expression growing darker with each passing moment. Emily stood there, her heart pounding, waiting for his verdict. The weight of the past few days, the fear, the injustice, all came crashing down on her. This was it, the moment of truth. Finally, Ryan looked up, his eyes filled with a mixture of shock and anger. I can't believe this," he said, shaking his head. "I need to think about this. I need to investigate further." "Of course," Daniel said, trying to sound reassuring. "We understand, but we felt it was important for you to know as soon as possible." Emily just stood there, frozen. Ryan looked at Emily, his gaze softening slightly. "I'm sorry, Emily," he said quietly. "I should have trusted you." A wave of relief washed over Emily, so intense that she almost buckled. But she knew this wasn't over yet. Clara still had to be confronted. Ryan sighed. "I need to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to call a meeting. Emily, Daniel, and Clara. Tomorrow morning. We'll get to the truth." Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. The meeting room felt colder than usual. Emily sat across from Clara, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Ryan sat at the head of the table, his face grim. Daniel stood beside Emily, offering silent support. John was also present, looking uncomfortable, but resolute. "All right," Ryan began, his voice heavy. "Let's get to the bottom of this." He turned to Daniel. "Daniel, you said you had evidence?" Daniel nodded, placing a file on the table. "Yes, Ryan. We've been able to piece together what happened. First, John is willing to testify that he saw Clara near the safe on the night the money went missing." Clara scoffed. "That's ridiculous. John's just trying to get attention." John straightened his shoulders. "I saw you, Clara. Don't lie." Daniel continued, ignoring Clara's outburst. "We also discovered some financial difficulties. Clara, you have a significant gambling debt, correct?" He placed copies of Clara's betting slips on the table. Clara's face paled. "That's none of your business, and it has nothing to do with this." Ryan picked up the betting slips, his brow furrowed. "Clara, this is looking very bad for you." Emily watched as Ryan carefully considered the evidence. Clara's constant denials and defensive posture were only making things worse. The air crackled with unspoken accusations. Ryan looked directly at Clara, his voice firm. "Clara, I need you to be honest with me. Did you take the money?" Clara's voice rose in pitch. "No, I would never do that. You all are trying to frame me." Ryan sighed, a look of disappointment washing over his face. "I've known you for a long time, Clara. I always thought you were trustworthy, but the evidence is mounting. John's testimony, the security footage, your financial troubles." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "Clara, please, just tell me the truth." The silence stretched, punctuated only by Clara's ragged breathing. Then, something in her seemed to break. Her shoulders slumped and she began to sob. Okay, I did it," she choked out, tears streaming down her face. "I took the money. I needed it. I was desperate." A wave of relief washed over Emily, so powerful she almost gasped. It was over. She was vindicated. "And you framed Emily?" Ryan asked, his voice laced with anger. Clara nodded, unable to meet Emily's gaze. "Yes. I'm so sorry, Emily. I was jealous. You were so good at your job, and everyone liked you. I wanted you gone." Emily felt a surge of anger, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of profound sadness for Clara. She had let her envy consume her. Ryan turned to Emily, his expression full of remorse. "Emily, I am so sorry. I doubted you. I should have trusted you from the beginning. You didn't deserve any of this." "It's okay, Ryan," Emily said softly. "I understand. It's just, I'm glad the truth is out." Daniel put a comforting hand on Emily's shoulder. "We knew you were innocent, Emily." The tension in the room began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of resolution. Justice had been served. Clara would face the consequences of her actions. And Emily could finally breathe again. The weight that had been pressing down on her for days lifted, replaced by a lightness she hadn't felt in a long time. Clara continued to sob, her face buried in her hands. Ryan stood up and sighed heavily. "I'm going to have to call the authorities, Clara." John, looking genuinely upset, quietly left the room. Ryan looked at Emily again, his eyes filled with a mix of regret and admiration. "Emily, I know an apology isn't enough, but I truly am sorry for putting you through this. You handled this with incredible grace." He paused, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I've been thinking, you've shown incredible intelligence and a real dedication to this restaurant. You're more than just a waitress, Emily. You have a sharp mind and you're incredibly resourceful." He took a deep breath. "I want to offer you a promotion. How would you feel about becoming a junior manager? We could really use someone with your skills and insights." Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. Ryan's words hung in the air. "How would you feel about becoming a junior manager?" Emily's heart fluttered. A promotion. A chance to finally prove herself, to escape the shadow of invisibility that had clung to her for so long. She looked at Ryan, seeing not just her boss, but someone who finally saw her potential. I would love that, Ryan. Thank you." The following weeks were a whirlwind. Clara, after facing the legal repercussions of her actions, was gone. The restaurant felt lighter, the air fresher. Emily threw herself into her new role, learning quickly, absorbing every detail. Her language skills, once hidden, now blossomed. She greeted international customers in their native tongues, creating a welcoming atmosphere that boosted the restaurant's reputation and clientele. Ryan, true to his word, became a mentor. He guided her, encouraged her, and challenged her to think outside the box. He saw her intelligence not as a threat, but as an asset. He started trusting her with more responsibilities, and Emily thrived. She felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. One evening, after a particularly successful event, Ryan asked Emily to stay behind. The restaurant was quiet, the only sound the gentle hum of the refrigerator. "Emily," he began, his voice hesitant, "I need to tell you something." He paused, taking a deep breath. "I know this might be inappropriate given our professional relationship, but I've developed feelings for you." Emily's eyes widened in surprise. She had noticed Ryan's attention, his lingering glances, but she had dismissed it as kindness, as mentorship. The idea that he could see her, really see her, in a romantic way was both terrifying and exhilarating. "Ryan, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything right now," he replied softly. "Just know that I admire your intelligence, your resilience, your kindness. You've transformed this restaurant, and you've transformed me." Emily, initially hesitant, found herself drawn to Ryan's sincerity. She had spent so long believing she was unworthy of love, of appreciation, but Ryan's unwavering belief in her slowly chipped away at her insecurities. She began to see herself through his eyes, a woman of intelligence, strength, and beauty. She allowed herself to feel, to hope, to reciprocate. As her confidence grew, Emily realized she had a story to share. She started volunteering at a local community center, mentoring young women who, like her, struggled with self-doubt and insecurity. She shared her journey, her struggles, and her triumphs. She spoke about the importance of believing in oneself, of embracing one's talents, and of never giving up on one's dreams. "Your worth is not defined by your circumstances," she told them, her voice filled with conviction. "It's defined by your intelligence, your resilience, and your courage." The young women listened intently, their eyes shining with hope. Emily's story resonated with them, inspiring them to overcome their own obstacles and embrace their potential. She showed them that invisibility was a choice and that they had the power to make themselves seen, to make their voices heard. One day, Mrs. Tanaka, the retired professor who had first recognized Emily's talent, returned to the restaurant. She saw Emily no longer a shy waitress, but a confident junior manager, greeting customers with warmth and grace. A smile spread across her face. "Emily," she said, her voice filled with pride, "I knew you had it in you. You are a true inspiration." Emily smiled back, her heart filled with gratitude. She had come a long way from the invisible girl who felt trapped by her circumstances. She had found her voice, her purpose, and her place in the world. Standing in the bustling restaurant, surrounded by the sounds of laughter and conversation, Emily finally understood that her worth was not defined by her past, but by her future. She was no longer invisible. She was seen, she was valued, and she was loved. The restaurant, once a symbol of her oppression, now represented her liberation. It was a place where she could use her talents, make a difference, and inspire others. Looking ahead, Emily saw a future filled with possibilities. She would continue to grow, to learn, and to make her mark on the world. She would continue to mentor young women, to share her story, and to empower others to believe in themselves. And as she looked at Ryan, standing beside her, his eyes filled with love and admiration, she knew that she was not alone. She had found her partner, her mentor, and her friend. Together, they would build a future filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. Emily's journey had been long and difficult, but it had been worth it. She had overcome her insecurities, embraced her talents, and found her voice. She had returned from her journey transformed, empowered, and ready to inspire others. She carried with her the elixir of self-belief, a potent remedy for invisibility, and a beacon of hope for those who felt lost and alone. Her life was a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of self-worth, and the transformative magic of believing in oneself. And that, she knew, was a story worth telling.